Let's get back to the other headlines that we have been following now. The Massachusetts Air National Guard member arrested after the leak of classified military documents online used his government computer to search for the word leak. On the day when news broke of the improper disclosure of those documents, the information alleged in an 8-page court affidavit for Jack Teixeira. The 21-year-old appeared briefly in a federal courtroom in Boston Friday, as you see in those sketches, where he was formally charged under the Espionage Act with unauthorized retention of classified and national defense information. Teixeira, we're told, will remain in custody at least until a detention hearing next week, which is set for Wednesday. Now, court documents unsealed Friday also indicate billing records for the social media platform Discord, along with interviews with another user, help the FBI to identify their suspect. I do want to talk more with an expert to help break all of this down for us, especially the legal aspect. Ambrosio Rodriguez is a former prosecutor in Southern California, now a criminal defense attorney in LA, and he joins us live to talk more about this. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And legally speaking here, can you first off explain to me, we know the arraignment itself was fairly short. It's there in federal court. Can you explain to me what happens during an arraignment like that?
Arraignments are very quick. All that happens is that a defendant is presented in court. He is told what the charges against him are. A plea of not guilty is always entered, and then the attorney that represents the defendant will make his or her appearance, and it is the beginning of the beginning.
Essentially the start of the case, I guess. So as
Right.
far as the question here itself, we know that the question is whether it does pose a big security risk. We've heard from several different entities one thing. We've heard, several different entities say the opposite. President Biden says it's not a big concern at this point. Do you think we're ever going to know the full scope of what these documents are based on the information that will be released to the public?
Not for a while. I'll leave a lot of what the impact is to experts in national security, but I think even from media reports, the information that has been leaked is going to have an impact. I think it is unrealistic or naive to say that this isn't going to have implications. And so the destruction that was created by what he's alleged to have done, I think is something that's going to be with us for a long time. It always is. Whenever there's leaking of something as classified as us spying on our allies or troop movement in Ukraine in our analysis of the war, I mean, that and the fact that we had someone working with us in the upper echelons of the Russian military, there's obviously going to be repercussions for that, and what they are, we'll find out later in history.
And I don't know at this point if this question can even be answered fully just yet, but we have heard rumblings, of course, that some of those documents that were released were altered. From a legal perspective, does that change anything if they are altered and they're not the actual original documents?
Yes and no. I mean, the media reports is that the altered documents were altered by Russian intelligence and as a part of a disinformation campaign. And so the crime itself of leaking those documents, posting them on Discord, that's in of itself enough for him to face some very serious circumstances.
So we know a detention hearing is now set for Wednesday, and the judge has decided that he is going to stay in custody there, at least until that detention hearing. Is that what we would normally expect in a case like this? But also, can you describe for me what a detention hearing is and what we can expect to happen on Wednesday?
Yes. Now, usually a detention hearing is conducted the same time as arraignment in federal court, simply, and usually most cases do not make national headlines and involve national security like this one. I would imagine that the delay between the arraignment and the detention hearing is in order for the defense to prepare to try to make an argument that might work. Detention hearings in federal court do not happen in state court because the federal system does not have a cash bail system. Every state has a cash bail system. You get arrested for whatever crime, there's a bail schedule. you get a bail bonds company, you pay 7-10%, and you're out. That's not how federal court works. In federal court, the judge has two issues to determine: whether you're a flight risk and whether or not you're a danger to yourself or others. If you pass that boundary, or that hurdle, I should say, if you pass that hurdle, then the judge will determine whether or not you should be out on bond or not, whether it has to be signed for, or whether you need collateral, things of that nature. I would imagine that in a case like this, is he a flight risk? Probably not. Is he a danger to others? I don't see a judge agreeing to or allowing him out. There's just no way. This case is too serious. The damage is too unknown, and I don't think he will be allowed out.
So we know from the court hearing yesterday that under the Espionage Act, he's charged with unauthorized retention of classified and national defense information. Obviously, a lot of words. Can you break down what that means in average speak?
Sure. Let me say what it isn't. This isn't treason. He's not being charged with treason. Treason is the crime by way where you turn something over or you give a secret of the United States or information in exchange for something, be it money, be it for political reasons or motivation, right? You commit treason when you turn against the United States for either for money or for political reasons, and we've seen cases like this. He's being charged with a kind of, it's not a technical crime, but it is a crime of where the government only has to prove that he had the authority to have this information, that the way he handled it wasn't following the law and policy, and that he had no authority to post this information online. So it's, in many ways, it's a pretty straightforward case in what the prosecution has to prove. They don't have to prove intent. They don't have to prove motivation. They just have to prove that he did, that he posted this on Discord, and that's enough.
Do we expect that there could potentially be more charges? Is it too early to tell?
It's too early for any one of us to give a definitive answer as to what's going to happen. We don't really know how. What we know is that this has been going on for a while, and that for whatever reason, our federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies only realized this the last, week or so? And so if there's more information in how long he's been doing it, I think we'll know more. But then there's also the argument to be made that we may not know more. That is, there's a purview of national security that may stay secret, and the NSA or may want to just keep this information to itself in order to try to mitigate the damage that's already been caused. I don't think we ever know everything when it comes to espionage cases.
I would say that's very true. So what about a possible sentence or punishment here? Again, I know we're early on, so it's kind of hard to break that down just yet. But do we know what possible sentence, what possible punishment he could face for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me just say that the charges against him now can change, right? U.S. attorneys are careful and serious people. And they put these charges on because they knew that they could put this together. That can change. They can file a superseding indictment and make more charges happen. Now, as he's charged now, he's looking at 20 years. And that can change and means that can go up. If there is a plea in this case, it will be up to the judge as to how much time he would get. And if it's a trial and he is convicted, which given the evidence, it seems extremely likely that he would. Again, it's up to the judge. Federal judges have wide discretion in a sentence, more than any state judge in all 50 states. They have wide discretion as to how much a person will or will not get, and that is how the system is made and run. Obviously, if he wants to try to serve less time, he would be better off fleeing, accepting responsibility, and making his case to the court as one of his only defense in terms of mitigation, and if he pleads, is I didn't realize what a big deal this was. I'm young, dumb, and naive, which I think to all of us over the age of 21 doesn't sound like a great defense, but I think it's all he has.
Well, on that same note, in your opinion and experience, does age play any sort of role in this? Does he get a pass for being young just based on your experience?
Yes, that happens. It happens a lot. We kind of give first-time offenders a break. But first-time offenders for, I don't know, stealing a car, for having drugs, for using drugs, selling drugs, things that don't involve disclosing, troop movement of Ukraine during a war that the entire world is somewhat involved in. I mean, this is, it can be your first offense, but if your first offense is murder, it's still murder. So it only up to a point.
All right. Ambrosio Rodriguez, thank you so much for taking the time here to join us. Anything else you want to add about the case before I let you go?
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, the only thing I would like to add is that I think that this is going to become a much bigger case than it is now, simply because so much of the information that he leaked is already out. And that part of the information, I mean, the kind of burden that he has to carry, I just see this as being a case where the government is going to make an example out of him, because this isn't the first time that a young person leaks classified top secret information. We've had Chelsea Manning, there's Edward Snowden. This has been going on for too much and too long. And so I think an example has to be made, and it will be made. And I think this is something that is not just going to, decisions won't be just made in Massachusetts. They're going to be made in the White House.
All right. Thank you again for taking the time to join us and provide kind of that breakdown and help us understand exactly what's going on.
My pleasure to have. Thank you so much for having me.